Friday, World Economic Newsings. We'll start in Israel, which seeks another $20 billion in military aid. Though Israel's Defense Minister Ehud Barak termed the pro-democracy revolutions in the region a movement in the right direction, that apparently doesn't mean that they can't be used as an excuse to press for massive additional military aid. Indeed, that is exactly what the Israeli government intends to do, as Barak insisted that the democratic Middle East would make the massive US military aid funding to Israel more essential, and that they need an additional $20 billion on top of the $3+ billion they already get annually, so the nation can increase the size of its military in the wake of all this freedom. New York, CNN Money. Sure, packs of T-shirts and socks are getting expensive because of skyrocketing cotton prices. But guess what else is made of cotton? The dollar in your wallet. In 2010, the cost of making one note jumped 50% from what it cost the government in 2008. The government produced 6.4 billion new currency notes last year, each one cost 9.6 cents to produce. Funny chart, this one. This is the classic, going back to 1980, mean real household income annualized growth. And if we take this chart at its word, then from 1980 to 2010, the bottom, fourth and middle quintile really haven't grown much at all, 10% over 30 years. And the top quintile's up 50% and the top 5% are up 70%. Not much, but we compare it with this, the next chart, where you see the dotted line for the top 5% disappears down to almost nothingness in comparison to the red spotty line and the green spotty line. Red spotty line is up 250%, and that is medical costs. With the other, the green spotty line, college and tuition fees up 600%. Hope you're keeping up. Las Vegas Sun, Nevada gas prices jump 46 cents in 1 month. If it's any consolation, Nevada drivers should be happy they're not living next door in California. They often say things like that, don't they? At $3.62 per gallon, Nevada holds the unwanted distinction of having the 6th highest average gas prices in the nation, according to the latest AAA survey. California has the most expensive average price at $3.91 per gallon. We move on to Zero Hedge, that tells us that European gasoline prices are to hit an all-time record high, and Americans are complaining at an average gas price in the mid-$3 range. In Europe, here, gasoline has just hit an all-time record of $8.6 a gallon. And that means fuel here is 1.6 euros a litre. The shops this morning, I noted that it was at 1.56, so I could easily find 1.6 a litre. So, yep, round here I could find gas at $8.62 a gallon. How do you like them bananas? EU debt crisis mounts as market strains Portugal. Europe's government debt crisis has flared up again in the run-up to two crucial meetings of EU leaders, as Portugal has to pay 50% more to raise cash in the markets on Wednesday than it had just 6 months ago. The major concern in the markets is that the March 24-25 summit of EU leaders in Brussels will not yield the comprehensive solution to the debt crisis that has been trumpeted. There's also a realization that higher borrowing costs will make it far more difficult for countries like Greece and Portugal to grow themselves out of the debt mire they find themselves in. No shit, Sherlock. Greeks adopt a won't-pay attitude. It started in Aphidynia, a small town north of Athens. Local residents, angry at losing their exemption from paying tolls for using a 500-metre stretch of motorway, raised a banner saying, "Den Pelorno," I won't pay. In the space of 4 months, Del Pelorno has grown from a one-off protest to a nationwide anti-austerity movement. Later we read that the movement's supporters refuse to pay highway tolls. In Athens they ride buses and the metro without tickets to protest against unfair 40% increase in fares, and so far only a few protesters have been asked to pay fines. And later, the jobless rate hit a record 14.8% in December. Inflation stood at 4.9% in January, more than double the Eurozone average. Mr. Diamantidis said the group's next move would be to tear up electricity bills on the grounds that tariffs had more than doubled since the recession started. Wall Street Journal, Borrower and Lender Beware, by Danielle Gross. Danielle. People often forget that Polonius's famous admonition was a warning to borrowers as well as to lenders. Never a borrower or a lender be. In Europe today, all eyes are on borrowers in trouble such as Ireland, but lenders are in danger too of losing both capital and friends. Irish politicians and many commentators have criticised the high interest rates, close to 6%, that the European Financial Stability Fund has set on Ireland's €67.5 billion loan. The rate is far greater than the growth rate Ireland can hope for any time soon. It will thus lead to a snowball effect under which high interest payments increase Ireland's debt. Irish incomes now among EU lowest. Irish incomes are estimated to have fallen to 8% below the EU average at the end of 2010, wiping out the gains of the last 12 years. Incomes per head have returned to levels last seen in 1997, according to figures contained in a new report. Only Italy, Spain, Portugal and Greece are now recording lower income levels than Ireland, the figures show. Ambrose Evans Pritchard in the Telegraph goes on about the euro, but I've pulled this out as the most important sentence. George Magnus from UBS said EU leaders are living in a parallel universe. Unable to see the festering EU debt crisis cannot be resolved without going to the root cause and recapitalising the banks. Now, George works for UBS, but he's too old and wise to put out too much bullshit, and that's straight talking. The banks need to be recapitalised. Nationalised, if you like, but they're wasting their time, because every time they look at these problems, it always just rattles its way back to the banks. And the banks will be hurt by this, the banks will be hurt by that. And they'll only move forward when they recapitalise the banks. Pink picks Martin Wolf's blurb for his article, Why the Eurozone Will Survive. On December the 16th, 2010, European heads of government solemnly declared that they were ready to do whatever is required to protect the Eurozone, writes the FT columnist. Words are cheap. Skeptics may wonder whether to take them seriously. In this case, they should. The Eurozone is highly likely to survive, albeit not without further turbulence. I would advance 3 arguments. First, the Eurozone is backed by a profound political commitment. Second, the long-term interest of participating countries are behind it. And finally, the members can afford it. In short, the Eurozone has the will and the wherewithal to keep the euro experiment afloat. And I think Mr. Wolf is right. That the politicians of Europe have the will, and the politicians of Europe have the wherewithal to keep the euro experiment afloat. But will they be able to drag their people along with them? Bon weekend. Bye.